International Women's Day serves as a reminder of the significant contributions women make to society every day. Recognizing the importance of women means acknowledging their roles as leaders, as innovators, caregivers, educators, and agents of change in all aspects of life. Model A is one of the hosts here on Community Update, but she joins me today to share her own experience as a mother, a wife, and a singer, and a career woman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting seeing that from this side of the table for a change.
We switch roles today.
Yeah.
You're beautiful. Let me just say this.
Thank you.
I totally am jealous of the blazer. I wanted to switch, but you're walking that. So I just wanted to give you your accolades for that. You're a snappy dresser. I just have a few questions in regards to who you are.
Right.
If you want to introduce yourself, just to let us know who you are exactly.
Okay, my name is, as you said, Modele Akintokun, and I am many things across the spectrum, including a citizen journalist
Right.
now. And I have enjoyed all the different hats that I have to wear.
Mm-hmm.
I usually say to people, it's 100% for me for whatever hat I'm putting on. It's just not 100% of all the hats all at the same time.
Right.
So that I wouldn't just fall to pieces. Yeah.
I love it. And what is your background?
So I studied electrical engineering
Okay.
in school. Very interesting reason. I just loved a challenge. And in Africa, when I was studying, there was just a handful of us girls in class. And I wanted to be where it was said that it wasn't usual or common for a girl to be.
Right.
So I studied electrical engineering, finished it off, and built a career in IT.
Nice.
But while I was in school, I also honed in my musical skills. I had always been a
So
chorister.
did you sing in church or
Yes,
anything like?
I had always been, maybe from about the age of 8.
Oh, nice.
And I always had that somewhere as my way of relieving stress and expressing myself.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I was done with school, I had built what I would call a strong voice.
Right.
And the people around me were like, you really shouldn't let this, just go to waste. What are you going to do with it? And I was like, well, but I really do want to do this whole engineering career thing or IT career thing. So what do? I spoke to a few mentors and they were like, well, do it all if you can. Do it all for as long as you can. And once again, because I love a challenge, I took up the challenge.
You sound like my kind of woman.
I took up the challenge
Yes.
and moved into songwriting as well.
Nice.
So not just the singing, the songwriting, and then I eventually evolved to beginning to produce or play around with producing music.
Nice.
So I have basically done those two along with built my family. We have 3 kids. We have a daughter and 2 sons.
Nice.
And I'm sure that there's a whole lot more in the offering as time, goes by. I'm also very passionate about having a voice in policy and policy making.
Yes.
So I currently sit on a board of one of the private schools here in Halifax because I believe that in the engine room where decisions are made,
Right, having a seat at those tables.
yes, is very important, having representation there. And so that's at least for what I can remember for now.
Oh, well, no, that's a lot. Those
Yeah.
are important roles to play and also to serve in. Now,
Yeah.
give a shout out to your hometown land, where you're from. Let us know. Say hello to your peoples.
Yes, my people are the hello.
Love it.
So I'm sure if you can figure that out, I am from Nigeria,
Nice.
Western Nigeria, Ondo State in particular, in Western Nigeria, and I lived on the continent until about 8 years ago, when my family and I moved to Halifax. Haven't been back since, but I miss the continent.
Okay, well, maybe we can take a trip together.
I know, and we
I
should.
would love
Yes,
that.
That would be beautiful.
I'm always up for learning that. So hopefully we can figure that out.
Yeah.
But you told me a little bit about your singing career.
Yes.
You told me a little bit about, your trade, whatnot. So tell me a little bit about being a mother and the role as a wife, and how do you balance all of that?
So that's very interesting because of the fact that there's also the cultural component,
Yes.
of these things. There are cultural expectations, there are faith expectations, as well as the, regular expectations, the human expectations of the role. And it honestly has been quite a roller coaster ride. Having said that, I wouldn't trade any of it.
Right.
We started having kids very early on in the marriage, so we didn't really have that much time, to just be by ourselves, just travel and spend our own money on ourselves.
Right. Well, and you bring up a good point, because especially for newlyweds or people who are just entering into that role as husband and wife, like to allow yourself some time, at least a year or so.
I agree.
To really, really enjoy that time, because family raising, I mean, not that I know, but I have sisters who are single parents, and know that it's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. It is a full-time job, and you are correct. Everyone may not share that opinion, but honestly, having gone through it, I feel, like we could have done with a bit of a breather,
right?
Before we got on this bike that has no brakes, that just keeps going, and going. But it's beautiful in the sense that it occurs in phases. So once upon a time, I could put the babies, in one place and come back, and the babies would be, exactly where I put them.
But when they start learning how,
and they start to move around, and then you have to just fortify the whole house and make sure that it's all baby proof, and then you get through that, and then you want them to talk. Right. Speak,
Tell me
and
what
then
you want.
They start to talk, and then, can you be quiet, and you get through that. And then there's the phase where everyone is satisfied with one movie and one snack, because everyone's growing. And then the stage where I am now, I have an older teen, we have younger teen, and we have preteen.
Wow.
So there has to be 3 different snacks, it has to be 3 different movies.
Everybody has their own individualism, excuse me.
Yes.
No. And I think as a mother, you would appreciate knowing that you want to cultivate them individually.
Absolutely.
And that they grow into their own uniqueness and likeness and their own voices.
Absolutely. It's a mysterious thing how they can look alike, look so much alike, and be so different, in their needs and their strengths.
Yes. You sound like a very proud mother.
I am. I feel that it's a privilege and a blessing, to have someone look up to you for a large chunk of their early life. What you're able to give them, they have. What you're not able to give them, if you don't expose them to, they don't have.
That's right.
So it's a very
I like that.
Delicate,
that was a nice word of wisdom. Can you repeat that actually? So what you don't expose them to?
It's either you have it to give to them, you have it to give to them, and they have it, or if you don't have it, you expose them to what they should have. Because if you don't expose them to, then they don't have whatever you have the right to deny them certain things.
What, like sugar?
Yes. Yes.
Sugar.
Yes. Don't get me started on that one.
No, but that's another whole conversation. I've had several of those with moms who haven't even introduced that into their diet for their kids, right? So they would know. But if somebody gave it to them, wow, right? Yes. Like that's a whole world of discovery. And then because diabetes is a real thing for us as Black people.
It is.
So if we can not introduce it, that's a benefit.
Yes.
Right?
You are
correct.
But
there's sugar in some ways in everything that we eat today. So, but anyway, that's a whole different conversation. So thank you for sharing that about mom and the role as your wife. As the wife, how does that?
So also culturally.
Yes.
Marriage is very big on the continent. In the more recent decades, it is possible for you to hold your head, especially as a female, and not be married. But once upon a time, and in very recent past, it wasn't the case. So it was almost as though we were judged as
would
being
you be
successful
or made shame?
Well, in not very obvious terms.
Okay.
Everyone around you would just be like overly concerned for you and treat you like everything was almost perfect. Just that there's just, that one thing, that you weren't building a family. So you are culturally marrying not just a man, but you're marrying his family, you're marrying his people. And status. So you have to have a big heart, you have to be ready for it. And for me, I was concerned. I mean, I'm married to someone who is also in the media and entertainment field.
Yes.
So I would be, working with my spouse. But I did wonder about how the larger family, would perceive, my one of my careers, because it would take me away from home,
Right.
the traditional setting, where you're cooking, you're cleaning, and you have more honor if you're doing these things yourself versus contracting it out to like a housekeeper.
But they help too. Yes, I guess traditionally and culturally, those would be same, and sometimes from our cultures as well, that's the end goal is to have a complete family or a roundedness of family, kind of thing, to carry on names, to pursue, the highest achievement of life is to be happy, and to be happy with somebody who loves you equally back.
Correct. And then there's this expectation also, where the health of the family is kind of tied more to the wife in the home than to anybody else. We will just leave it at that. But suffice to say that I did have to think through a lot of things. I felt like I didn't just have to keep my husband happy. I had to keep his family happy.
His family,
as best as possible, and then nurture our new nuclear family, which we're building. But again, like I said at the start, I think my coping mechanism, has always been to not try to put on all the hats
at one time.
At once.
Yeah, and I think that's a good balance, a healthy balance, to know when to kick into certain things to be what your husband may need to be, satisfy his family here, and then also care for your children. Right.
Yes.
And then your career.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot. I things that I haven't thought about in that depth, but certainly valid points. In what ways do you believe being a woman has influenced your experiences or opportunities in your career or personal life?
So, in career, and I'll speak about two of my many careers.
Okay.
For music, I was coming up at a time on the continent where I couldn't find a lot of people that were like me. In music and in entertainment.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is people who were in music and entertainment who had a stable family setting with kids growing up, with a father and mother on the scene, and everything was stable there. And they also had vibrant musical careers, like, Success. Being on TV, and all that. So it was a bit of a tough time, to be honest. I second guessed myself quite a bit in that season. But the fact that I grew up in a home that had a mom and a dad, and a mom who I saw sacrifice almost everything, for our stability, helped me to decide that if there was ever a day that my hats were to cross, the mom hat would always have priority over the career hat. Now, I don't think my male counterparts had to make those choices. Right. So they were always, so there would be me, and then a couple of guys in the industry. There would be me and a fresh set of guys in the industry, and then once in a while there would be the odd other female that comes up, and then because of the whole journey of motherhood, childbearing, I would either have to show up with my baby bump,
oh my God,
or I'll tell you. There were times when I had to do like concerts with full baby bump, large, round, nosy piglet nose, and everything.
Yeah, we put that baby weight on, right? So what were you feeling at the time? Were you feeling protective, like that nobody would bang into you? Like, because that's kind of risky, wouldn't you say?
It is. And I had sung up to 38 weeks. I'd gone on stage, at 38 weeks, before. So yes, there is that concern, but there was always a part of me that felt, you know what, I want to push this thing as far as it can go. I want to know how much of life I can have, because my male counterparts don't have to take 9 months,
They're
or
not strong enough to
yeah,
handle that.
so yes, don't try this at home. I'm saying, do not try this at home.
Right. Yes. No.
But I was
it's
curious. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point because you sometimes for, I guess, for maternity leave,
Mhm.
right? At a certain time that you can go so that there's no risk, there's no, you want to maximize all that you can for later.
Yeah.
But you're not the only woman that I have shared that with me, that you go until either your last day or till you're able to drop the baby.
Absolutely.
Or I did push and deliver is what I mean by not drop the baby. But but that's a strength in itself.
Yes. Yes. I think that the system, the society,
Mhm.
and just my physiological makeup put that much pressure on me, and I believe that I rose to the pressure because I was curious, like I
Right.
said. So for my music, there was that. And remember, your body's going to change when you go to have a baby, but you're going to come back. You need to shoot videos, and your fans you need to look as close to what you look like
the last time
before,
they seen you.
so there's
Yeah.
all that pressure,
Yeah.
and then there's my regular. So in my current role,
Oh
I'm a
my.
project lead, for a payroll firm. Now I'm in project management. There's that aspect as well. You want to be able to show up. You want to be on your projects, which are sometimes 18 months long.
Right.
And you want to be there for your whole project. What happens when there's a baby, in between, or
It's an interruption.
the challenges
Yeah,
of maybe women coming into menopause and all that. You're thinking about that, and you don't want to feel like you're beneath your male
Right,
counterparts in
right.
any way,
Yeah.
or that you don't want your employers to feel like they got a bad rap or a bad deal for taking you on versus
right,
a man.
right.
So you put in extra energies.
We compensate.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So how do you think that we can encourage other women to pursue leadership roles, right,
Mhm.
in their communities or the workplace?
Now, I think the first thing would be for us women to know our value.
Mm-hmm.
Someone described a woman as, the chief unsung hero. Someone else, I watched a video where someone did it was like a stint where they were going to hire people.
Yes.
And they would tell the person, oh, you're going to do this job. You're going to work for 24 hours a day. You're going to have no breaks. Many times you may have to stand for most of the time. You're going to blah, blah, blah.
I think I
And
know where
everyone
this is
said, have you seen that?
No, but I think I know where it's going.
And then and everyone was like, no, that's abuse. It's that borders on abuse, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes in and says, oh, that's a woman's role, or that's a mom's role.
It is.
So
Yeah.
if we understand that we have, if we understand that we have been stretched that much
That's
by
right.
life, we actually do have a lot of qualities that have been built, into us naturally,
Mhm.
because we've been forced to prove ourselves and prove
Over
ourselves
and
over
over
and over and over again.
Yes.
The society can benefit from that. So don't wait, for your
But
praises to be sung.
But I think, they can benefit, but I also think there's exploitation there as well.
There is.
Right.
There is. But if we're going to be exploited, like I was saying about getting a voice, on the boards. If we're going to be exploited, then let's be exploited all the way at the top,
That's
where we can influence decision making,
Yes,
right? And then
absolutely.
eventually get people to think about us, a lot more. We have strengths. For instance, there are researches that show, that risk management is handled better by women. And that's because
But they've
we are
been
not as
balancing-
risk hungry,
Right. But you've been doing it since,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Since forever.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's a lot of advantage to the community
Right on.
when women step up with our ability to manage risk better, with our 360 vision and all those things that we're exploited for.
Right.
But if we come up to the table, and bring that, to the planning and the decision making, in society,
Strategizing, yeah.
what is happening? We
Mhm.
are building better, stronger societies. We're making better choices overall as communities, as societies, as organizations, as structures.
You're making me think also is that we can think as a whole.
Yes.
Like we can see
Yes.
all the parts.
Yep.
We can see all the people that will affect and be, that will reach whatever our
Absolutely.
decisions are.
Yep.
Right? Because we had to. If you have 5, 7 kids, like back in the day when my grandparents were growing up,
Yeah.
they had like families of 14, 16, 20 7 kids.
You are correct.
You need to be able to manage that household.
Yes.
And knowing what time daddy's coming home to make sure that he's happy at the end of the day too.
Exactly.
Those are all the things, right?
Absolutely.
These are moving parts, right?
So think about putting that now in leadership roles.
Yes.
There's more of a perspective to be seen, to be factored in, you know, and because of that, the outcomes should be better because they consider more things, more people groups,
right.
et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. That's right. I was also thinking too of like, in terms of like, you know, stepping up to leadership when we do it all together, when there's more than one of us.
Yes.
In the same place, operating, functioning, you know, delegating.
Absolutely.
But we're working towards that goal.
Absolutely.
That's power.
It is. It is. And I know this, although this adage refers to child raising, it takes a village. It's not just for child raising, like for even finding our stability in leadership. It does take a village. You hold my hand, I hold your hand. We're sharing information, we're sharing strategy.
That's right.
You know, if more women know that it can work, and they see the back end picture of those for who it has worked, I think it will build their confidence. Like I'm saying, you know, in a setting where it's vulnerable, and I'm saying, I'm not all that. I do have all those titles, but I'm not all that all the time.
Right, that's
you know,
right.
That may be a piece of information that someone who's tentatively thinking about this thing needs to hear, to say, oh, you know what? I really don't have to give up one of my lives for the other. You know, yes, I'll just do it the way she said she did it.
And it also prevents the, you know, the means of burnout.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And taking care of your mental health as well. You know, because sometimes, you know, people, they go and they're smiling and they're looking like they're all together.
Right.
But when, you know, when people leave or when they're alone, you know, there's a crack that sometimes it's just like tips us over.
Absolutely.
So, you know, being together gives respite to maybe another.
Yes.
Or we have the means to say, okay, so-and-so's here. I can breathe. I know that they're going to jump in and help because they're that kind of a person.
Absolutely. So being communal, being familial is very, very important. And thankfully, I mean, as particularly in Black communities, we are generally, you know, that way already, but we need to, you know, pull into it as a strength. Yeah. Because, I mean, you're just talking about the mental health. There's also the physical, the physical health. You know, things that, because women are not getting enough rest, you know,
and they're feeding everybody else.
Exactly. You know, and okay, so the nutritious food, everyone needs to get their nutritious food first. And when you're done, maybe there's nothing left in the crock pot, or maybe you're just too tired to eat, you know, because you were busy making it, you know, and all that. So there needs, you know, to be that hand holding, you know, for us to, you know, all get there
safely
to the place of impact.
Safely. Absolutely. Okay, can you share a particular memorable moment or experience that highlights the strength and resilience of a woman?
Oh, yes. That one is an easy one for me. It's an easy one for me. So in my music career, I had a first album out in about 2004, and there were no kids at the time. So, you know, I had just thought, okay, I think we got it done in maybe about 3 years. And I just thought, okay, in another 3 years, I'll have a sophomore album. But then the kids started to come and everything. And then I had an opportunity to be a part of a national project back in Nigeria, which had some of the biggest names in entertainment at the time on that project. And I was brought in for my songwriting abilities to join that project. So we wrote the song, and it was going to be, think We Are the World.
Like,
think of something like that, We Are the World. You know, so all the artists coming together, you know, so it was going to be something like that to fight cybercrime. And the song was called MAGA No Need Pay. So yeah, we'll talk about that another day. We'll talk about what that means.
I'm so intrigued by that.
But it was now time to shoot the video, and the schedule was made for the video. And guess what day this video was to be shot on?
Your delivery day?
7 days after delivery.
What?
Or should I say the 8th day after delivery?
You're still healing.
My goodness. And it was a vaginal birth. It wasn't CS. Complete with tears.
Oh.
Yes.
See, that makes me scared.
No, don't be.
No. And I only say that because, you know, a lot of us don't start, we're small in stature.
I'm small like you.
Yeah, but
and
they tell me that our bodies will adapt and adjust for childbearing.
Yes, and it is true. I'm living proof. I've had 3. So don't panic.
Okay.
And if you need someone to hold your hand, I'll be there to hold your hand. I promise. We will get through it.
Okay, we'll talk about that when that time comes. Yeah. But go ahead, continue on with your story. I'm sorry.
I was like, this is not right.
Right.
I don't feel right. And culturally, we name our child on the 8th day,
Oh, I didn't know that.
The child has no name culturally for us until the 8th day. So it was supposed to be the big day for naming. And so we reached out to the team and said, oh, this is not right. This date doesn't work for us, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, this is a national project. Like, suck it up. If you are not able to make this, you need to sign off on allowing us to put another person's face in that video as you. And my husband, who was my manager, had said, you know what, we put in too much work into this thing for us to let it go now. So we're gonna go. So I went with my very big face, my very big
and
nose.
You're still married today?
And yes, I am.
He was
My in-laws didn't know the whole truth about what happened.
Right.
Because we had to get out of the house somehow. But long story short, we shot the video, and my face is on that video along with my voice. And the son that we speak of is 14 years old now.
14.
So on that day, I
what did you
knew
end up
that
naming him.
his name is Olumorewa.
And what does that mean?
God has brought us goodwill.
I think it's a perfect name.
Yes. Yes, I think so
it's
too.
perfect.
Yes.
And we talked about this before the show, that names have meanings.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And also like in your culture, but also in ours, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get named after somebody in the family.
Yes.
To carry that person on or to honor them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But we call you what we see in you. We call you what you're supposed to be.
Right.
Yes.
That's like a life-giving spirit. Our culture is very strong.
Yes.
These are some of the very beautiful things, about our culture. I remember that incident, so well. I mean, I'll never forget it. But what my driving force was the same thing I said to you earlier. I have colleagues on that video who probably had a baby on that same day, but it was their wives who had the baby, not them.
Right.
And so they didn't have any problem getting to the set.
That's right. They didn't have to make a choice in a decision.
They didn't have to make a choice. But like I said, I always want to know how far I can take it before I drop it and say it's too much. And so that for me was why I pushed. And I think that in that, I was even able to convince myself of my resilience as a woman, much more than I had thought before.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Thanks for sharing that.
And to any of my in-laws who are hearing this for the first time, your wife is very sorry.
I think you've proven yourself as a good wife and a woman.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to young women who aspire to successful careers while also maintaining or trying to fulfill a personal life? So similar to what you walked through.
Yes. I would be speaking from the good, the bad, and the ugly of it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge point that you touched on before, and that's your support system.
Yes.
Now, you can have it all. I will be the first to tell you that. You can have it all, but it has to be done in a sensible way. It has to be done in a way different than others who are doing just the one thing.
Right.
There's one, like you said, having kids, raising kids is a full-time job. So you're raising kids, that's already a full-time job. You're doing your career, whatever it is. Mine is project management, going back to school. Mm-hmm. That's a full-time thing as well. You have another job. Like for me, you have another whole career thing, music, public speaking, or whatever. You have all those. You can have it all, but it has to be properly paced. And you need to understand that you will not always have a say about which hat comes on. But you would need to be, the challenge is, if you know you want to have it all, you need to be uber adaptable. Adaptability has got to be your biggest goal because you have to be able to turn it over. You have to be able to twist and bend.
That's right.
You have to be able to make it all work and at the same time, take care of yourself. That support system will require you to not be proud. I ain't too proud to beg. You need to be able to ask for help.
No, but
when
that's
you need
huge.
It.
That's huge.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Putting your pride aside and saying,
absolutely,
I need help, right?
Absolutely.
And not just when it's in your favor, but I need help. And the other thing that I think about is times and seasons.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. That's very right.
Yeah.
I think it was Anita Baker who took a decade or so after her album. I mean, like I to be honest, I love her voice, and she was one of the people that I used to train with,
Right.
And when I heard that she was coming back, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that she was gone. She was just one of those beautiful women who kind of like fell off the radar for a while.
Right.
But she came back a decade later. She had taken a decade off to build her family.
Yeah.
And when that happened, that, you know, it made it strong in my heart to believe that you really can have it all, but you must pace yourself. If you don't want to give up a decade to take care of babies, you don't have to. Either don't have the babies or don't do the career.
Right.
You know, but if you know you want to have it all, you have to absolutely understand that.
Plan.
There's that.
Have an understanding of what, you know, what you can get, what your capacity is to get to where you need to
absolutely.
be. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was sharing with you too, earlier on, about my grandmother,
right,
Miss Rose Johnson, who I would definitely love to have on the show and share her story. She went back to school at 70 years of age.
Look at that.
Right? And her desire, her heart's desire was to finish school, go to school, and become an educator. And so when that opportunity came, again, we talk about times and seasons, right? She raised her choice was to raise her family. Right. And I didn't know this story, right? I didn't know this until she shared it one day. And now she's like one of the top of her class. She's thriving. She's doing math, computers. She even, when COVID happened, you know, she was able to get herself on Facebook and be in chime with us so we can do our family groupings. And like
that is amazing.
I know.
It's amazing.
It blesses you.
Yes,
right?
it does.
And it gives something to her in terms of independence, confidence, right? And the fact is that a sense of achievement.
And youth for her brain cells.
Right on.
Youth for her brain cells. So she goes back to school. She's learning something new.
I don't think of that. But that is, no, honestly, right? Right.
Absolutely. She's reinventing herself. Yeah. And you know, I think there is an unspoken pain in the heart of many women who have had to put dreams down.
Or a hold,
you know,
even take them to the grave with them.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think that your grandma is so special in the sense that she gets the chance to still, first of all, be able to voice the dream. Because some, you know, have felt, oh, you know what, let me just hold it and keep focusing on everyone and leave it at that. But somehow she got the chance to voice her dream. That means she held on to the dream.
Right.
And then she got the chance, you know, to actually pursue that dream. Because like, I'm thinking back home in Africa now, if my grandmother wanted to do that, she probably wouldn't have the opportunity because in her day, the girl child was denied education.
Absolutely. I read that.
There was that. And, you know, sometimes because, oh, yes, her destiny was to cook and clean for the male child whose job was to just, you know, be handsome, right? But there were other times when it was also, it was a financial thing because back home, you know, education at the grassroots is not necessarily free.
Yes.
So if a parent, you know, didn't have as much money, they would have to choose which child to raise. Yeah, and of course the girls were the lower priority on the spectrum.
Oh, wow.
You know, for that.
That makes me sad.
I know.
That makes me sad. And
maybe the person who was supposed to develop the cure for cancer.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to have you back on the show because I have lots more questions, but we're running out of time. So I just wanted to, again, extend that to you to come back on so we can further this conversation.
I would love to.
I think you're fascinating. I think you have so much in you that I want to pull out.
Thank you.
And so one of my final questions, if I just have one final question. What does International Women's Day mean to you personally? And how do you think you can best celebrate and support, you know, International Women's Day on an everyday basis?
So I'd say International Women's Day means hope for the female gender to me. And hope, having said that, it's still sad, you know, in a sense that it is still important at this in 2024 for us to have a day to think, you know, about women. But having said that, we are grateful for the fact that the focus is on the women and that there are strides that have been made in removing the inequality, you know, inequality in earning, inequality, you know, even in survival rates of babies, you know, because just by the female anatomy, the female physiology, you know, babies
and trauma.
Had babies were more likely, female babies were more likely to die when exposed to water that isn't, you know, clean, you know, than their brothers.
Right.
You know, so there's all of that, you know, and more. So there's discussions going on. Having said that, we are not there yet. We have a long way to go because as a woman, I would still probably earn about 77% of what my male counterpart
would be making.
is making. Fundraising is still easier for the men. I could go on and on. There's still so much.
There's a whole
there's a whole lot to do. So I would just encourage everyone, to try to go beyond the day. Let the day start the conversation for every day. International Women's Day should be every day. We should be thinking about the fact that every time a woman is functioning in less than her capacity, we are having lower than what we could have, holistically, So the sooner we are able to have equal input, the better. The sooner we'll have a stronger society.
That's right. We push and encourage each other.
Yeah.
I think of the African Heritage Month's theme: our smiles, our joy, our resilience. Right. And I think that that is a celebratory thing. Because whenever we get together, it's like, hey, how you doing? Like, it's always celebratory, right? Like, we go to the highest mountain to raise our voice to say, I see you.
Amen to that.
I see you.
Yeah.
So I see you today.
I see you, my beautiful sister.
And all your radiance. So thank you for being a guest on the show. And I do hope that we get a chance to sit down and have a continued conversation.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is Male Akintabi. Is a mother, a wife, a singer, a career woman. She stopped by today to talk to me about the significant contributions women make every day in society. And we celebrate International Women's Day. We thank her for her time. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon and receive notifications whenever we post new content. Feel free to email us about any upcoming events or activities you'd like your community to know. I'm Nicole Johnson, and until next time, see you soon.